Darryl, thank you for so much for joining us on What Happens Next. How are you today?
Yeah, very well, thanks. And thanks for having me, Chris. I'm looking forward to this one.
You know what?
I've seen some questions and you're going to get me thinking.
That's good. Getting people thinking is part of the job, I think. And I really appreciate you coming on because, as I've said to you before, so many of our clients and people who we know sort of watch and consume our content are thinking about what happens next, not only for their lives but also for their businesses. And for a lot of us who are business owners, our businesses become component parts of our lives, and thinking about transition is often a fairly difficult one. So I'm really curious and excited to dig into that with you today. But before we do that, tell us a little bit about you and your business.
So my name's Darryl Bates-Brownsword. I run a business here called Succession Plus. Now, Succession Plus grew out of a typical management growth and consulting company and working with SME business owners. So that typical 2 to 30, 40 million revenue mark, owner-led businesses, where we recognized that in that marketplace, many of them were growing their business and their business was their largest asset. And they were thinking of that asset as their pension. And they were expecting it to fund life after work. And just seeing too many of them get to the point where they're ready to, capitalize on that and realizing that their business was just in no state to be sold. And they're going to a broker and they're going, look, I can't sell this. And what should have ended up being, the pinnacle of their career and their business success ended up feeling like a messy divorce. So that's why we built Succession Plus. We help business owners prepare for exit so they can exit like a boss.
I like that phrase, and I saw that on the website this morning, exit like a boss, because I'd imagine that a lot of the business owners are in control of their own destiny, and then they reach a point where they've got to sell and they're not, right? So how do you maintain that control throughout that process? So I suppose it's not one I've put on the question sheet, but what are the key factors to maintaining that control when you're thinking about selling your business, do you think?
Well, I guess that when you're thinking about selling your business, you're actually giving up control and you're handing over control to the next generation.
Yeah.
And you bang on there, Chris, because, especially at the smaller end of that SME business market where businesses are, if you have a look across the sector in the UK, there's a lot of businesses that have sort of capped out at 1.5 mil revenue. And businesses of that size are businesses where the owners really are in control. And we might argue control freaks. And that's okay, but they can span, their span of control is sort of 10 to 12 people, and it maxes out at that. And that correlates to about, 1.5 million pounds in revenue. And growing a business means that we need to actually maintain control, but without doing the work ourselves. So how do we delegate and maintain control? And I guess, just thinking on my feet here is there's a bit of a correlation there when it comes to our financial planning after that. We're not just whacking all the money in the bank and hoping that, it works out. We're working with you guys to maintain that money fulfills on its potential and that we get to continue what happens next as expected.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that's an interesting one, isn't it? That, what I've found growing my business, and I'm sure you have grown yours, is the more I'm able to let good people do good work in areas that I'm not particularly good at, the more it frees my time to do stuff like this that I really, really love. So I suppose it's that element of being comfortable with not always being the person who's got all the answers as part of that journey, I'd imagine.
Yeah, and it's so easy to say, isn't it? Like you just said, it's so easy. You just got to get out of the way, and there are people who are better at it than you. And we know all of that, but it's our business and it's my baby, and I've built it up from scratch, and no one knows how to do it like me. And I built the marketing channel, and I'm the best salesperson in the business, and no one can do it like me. And I brought in a marketing person, and they said they had all this experience, and they let me down, so I just had to do it myself. So and why did they let you down? Because they didn't do it your way. Well, why is that? Because you didn't show them how you wanted it done. You just said go and do it. So it's partly, yes, we need to get good people in. We need to create the space and the functional structure to allow them to come in and do good. And we need to inform them and communicate and say, this is what we want done. And here's how we're going to measure the effectiveness. And here's your scope. And here's how much you can do. And when it gets outside of these
rails, here's the systems and processes. Here's how we do it here. And this is how we can do it.
Yeah. And what to do when something is outside of the scope of those processes. You need to inform them how to do that as well.
Yeah. I'd imagine as well that you need to leave some scope for positive change, right? So the evolution of the business needs to happen. So how do you empower people to take that on? How does that fit into the plan?
Well, that's where the functional structure comes into play. And what we do as business owners of SMEs is we go, hey, look, it's time to get some structure into my business. What a big business do? What do they do in corporates? Well, they have an organizational chart, and we try and retrofit and jam an organizational chart, a corporate style org chart into an SME, and it just doesn't work. What we need to do is we need to look at the functions, everything that needs to be done to run the business over over the course of a year. And if we identify all those functions, we quite often have more functions than we have people. So we identify what needs to happen first and assign it to people. So people end up with several jobs rather than who's doing what. And we need to grow out of who's doing what into what needs to happen in the SME. And that will give us structure. And as we grow, we can see where the pressure points are. And then we can start re-signing and just moving people out of the slots and the functions, because the functions will always remain the same no matter how big we get.
Yeah, it's task related as opposed to role related, isn't it? What actually needs to be done and who does that job. I completely get that.
Yeah.
So new business, a business owner comes to you, they're thinking about what's next in their life. Help me understand a little bit about the process you follow to support them to get to the point where they can exit like a boss. Let's get that in again. I'm going to probably say that at least 5 times, Darryl, in this interview.
Well, if you're saying it, that saves me saying it, because ultimately that's what we want, isn't it? We want that. Chris, did you know? Look, I don't know if you're aware of this, and some of the people listening to this may not be aware of it. But if we're talking to business owners and we all want to exit like a boss, the reality at the moment is, and this is what we want to change, and hopefully you'll be able to help us with this. But the reality is, 4 out of 5 businesses that go to market, they get to that point where they go, I want to sell my business. Only 4 out of 5 get to sell. So that means 1 in 5 is getting to exit. That doesn't even mean exit like a boss yet. They're actually getting to exit. Now, of those 1 out of 5,
20% fail to sell.
80% fail to sell.
Only 20% sell. Right. Okay.
Only 20% sell. That's what's so terrifying, I think. As business owners who've taken risks their whole life and have an expectation that at some point they're going to exit and they're going to sell their business. And they're living and running their business with this assumption in place and it not coming to pass. That's what we got to change. And a lot of them are also hoping that at some point they'll get their business to a size or a stage where someone notices and comes and gives them a tap on the shoulder. Now, that doesn't always work either, because if they're not exit ready and they're just reacting, then the buyers go, we won't do it at the moment. And the sellers often say, we couldn't make it work. But the reality is the buyer runs for the hills because it's just too risky. And they're just going, what are the risks? I'm looking at the risks. No, thanks very much. And they'll just move on because there's plenty of opportunities out there. So what we got to do is de-risk it for them.
Yeah, I mean, the model that you talk about on the Succession Plus website is interesting because it's actually about the elements that you need to consider when you're thinking about de-risking your business. So can you talk me through those elements and the elements that you need to consider when you're thinking about de-risking?
Yeah. So when we're starting, we get to that point, and hopefully this is about 3 years before we have any before we want to leave our business. We get to the point where we go, look, I want to leave my business in 2 or 3 years' time. Let's get it ready so I can maximize the value and exit like a boss. So what do we do? Well, we need to know the starting point, and we need to know the starting point from a buyer's perspective. So what we do is we go, let's do a fact find, and we'll do a complete analysis. And it's a bit of a reverse due diligence, but let's have a look at what your business is worth today. And we're taking it from a buyer's perspective. So we don't sell businesses. So from that perspective, we're independent and we have no attachment to you actually selling your business and us collecting a commission. So we go, let's have a look at the starting point. Right. Now, you've got some goal in mind of, I want to sell my business for X, or I think it owes me this much. Every owner has a number in mind, whether they've done some work with you and you said you need this much to keep going for financial independence, or whether it's just a number of gone, I want to sell it for 5 mil, 10 mil, whatever it is. We've got a number in mind. So we need to get that starting point number and see what the gap is between what we need and what we're hoping to get and what it is now. So that's stage one. We do that assessment. Now, part of that assessment is seeing the gap between where it is now and what you want it to be. But that assessment also includes an attractiveness score. How attractive is your business to be bought? Because there are some things that will make it easier to sell regardless of the value. And the other thing we do is we include an assessment of the value potential of your business. So we go, if you were operating at best practice, if your business was attractive to be acquired by a strategic buyer, here are all the things that will influence the valuation and here's the total, or based at your current revenue, what your business could be worth. Now, obviously, as you go on and over a 2 or 3 year time period, hopefully you're going to increase the revenue and the profit as well. So you will actually increase that overall valuation. So let's start with an assessment of what's possible. The next stage. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, go on. Talk to me. I'm going to sort of dig a bit deeper. Talk to me a bit about some of the factors that might have an impact to the attractiveness score, and talk to me about some of the factors where it might not be in the current value, but there's a value potential there.
Okay. So the things we're looking for is, these are all risks, Chris. There are all sorts of different risks, which just make it easier to buy. So, and I won't talk about them in any particular order, but we'll go, who owns the business? What do the business structures look like? Is the building in the business, or is there a building in the pension? Because someone who wants to buy your business wants to buy your business. Chances are they don't want your property. So just what are the structures? And then from the owner's perspective is are there any tax advantages or disadvantages of the various structures I've got?
Yeah.
Then we'll go, hey, look, is there more than one owner in the business? And do we have some shareholder agreements in place? Are we protected? Do we know what's happening? Like, is there any risk there that someone wants to hold back and doesn't want to, participate? There's a risk there. We do a deal and someone's got 5% and says, no, I don't want to sell. There's a risk there from a shareholder perspective. We then start to have a look and go, okay, look, we'll do some benchmarking and we'll go, how do your financials compare with best practice? What are best in class financials for a business similar to yours that's doing really good? So that'll influence the valuation on the profitability side. Then we'll go, how integral are the owners into the operating of the business? Are they key people? Are they the best salesperson? Are they the key person for delivery? Are they the best technician in the business? Or are they hands-off just working on the business? So how integral are they? How many people are there in the business? So size has an influence on valuation. How repeatable, how predictable is the business? Do we have systems in place? Have we got processes? Are they all documented? Do we have management systems as well? Because when we talk about systems, most organizations talk about the operational side of the business, and the quality, if we look at the ISO 9000 series, they're pretty much operational. But what are the management systems in place? Have we got a management team that we can demonstrate that the management team are actually running the business and compensated for doing so? Are we paying market-based salaries? Have we got the right people? And what's the staff retention looking like? What's the client retention looking like? What's the revenue look like? Are we going out and selling projects and just have to sell more and more projects, or have we got some sort of continuity of revenue and income coming in? Have we got long-term contracts? Have we got some IP? Have we got IT, intellectual property? Have we got some sort of proprietary product that you can only get from us? whether that be a methodology or are people coming to buy our knowledge and our experience and our expertise? Because if you're buying my experience and I leave the business, that's no longer available. Then we're exploring things like, do you actually really have a brand in the marketplace? Now, a lot of small businesses like to think we've got a brand, we've invested some money in a logo and we've got some styling and what have you. But a brand is when the whole marketplace is coming to Acme Engineering, because Acme Engineering is renowned for this as opposed to any other engineering company. So do you really have a brand that attracts customers coming to the brand? And, that brand could be, linked to your methodology. You've got some IP around your methodology. How many locations do you have? Like, are you scaled? Once you get to a certain size, your valuation will go up. So there's a few of the areas. And of course, do you have all your documentation in place? Like if I'm coming to buy your business, what's your record keeping like? Your financials, your forecasting? Are you on top of the numbers? Are you in control? Have you got good reporting and monitoring systems in place, and all of your systems, are they documented, or is it just people are indoctrinated to follow things the same way?
Yeah.
I'm looking for consistency, predictability, reliability. I'm looking for a boring business that'll be worth more.
It's really interesting when you think about that, because I say when clients come and see me, I had a client who's a young business owner, funny enough, and typically when we work with clients, it's in their mid-50s, but this business is doing really well, and the guy's in his early 30s. And when he came to me, Darryl, he said, right, what I'd like you to do for me, Chris, is let me know when there's going to be a really exciting investment opportunity comes up. And what are you going to do? Are you going to phone me once every month with that? I went, I'm really sorry, but if you're looking for that kind of service, it's not Savello that you need to be talking to, because that call will come from me, never. Because what we actually do is boring, long-term and consistent. And actually, and I get it at 30, Darryl, because you're like, you want to take on the world at 30, and he does. He's doing really well. But the reality is, his coach came to me and said he needs some of the foundations in place as well to make sure that he's doing that slow growth, the steady wealth building growth you need. And I think sometimes, particularly if you really enjoy business, you get excited about those big things, and sometimes the boring things don't get done, right?
Well, you've just described an entrepreneur as opposed to a business owner, right?
Yeah,
because
true.
I think there's differences. Entrepreneurs are those people who get bored after 5 minutes, and you need to have an ops manager behind them putting all the systems and processes in place. And the entrepreneur is coming up with 20 brilliant new ideas every day. And the ops manager or the CEO behind him or her is going, well, let me filter those 20 ideas. Let me find, there's actually one good one in there somewhere. And my job is to find that, because you're off on the shiny new things all the time.
Actually, it goes back to what you said about entrepreneurs having good both internal and external teams to support them to do the other stuff, right? That's the priority there. So sorry, go on, tell me.
Is it going to go knowing your risks and managing them, whether they be in your personal finances or your business strategy?
100%. 100%. Talk to me about the things that business owner comes to you, says, I'm ready to think about exit. What are they misunderstanding about the process, or what are they underestimating when they're thinking about what's next?
That's a brilliant question, Chris, because I think unfortunately, there's not the awareness amongst business owners out there yet. And it's one of the things we're trying to change. And that's what I meant when I said, hopefully you can help me. If we talk to business owners out there, you, I, whoever it is, we're talking to business owners in the marketplace of SME businesses, and we go, hey, you need to work on your business and not in your business, right? And they'll give us a nod. Yep, I understand that. And we can talk about how much they're doing it or not, but they're aware of the concept. If we say, hey, look, if you want to prepare your business so you can exit like a boss and minimize your risks on exit and minimize the risk of actually being able to exit, or at all, then you need to prepare your business so it's exit ready. And it's going to take you 2 or 3 years to get all your ducks in a row. So there's the biggest misconception, I think, is is that a lot of business owners go, hey, I'm not ready to exit yet, so I won't get my business exit ready. And they just go, well, I want to sell in a year, so let's knock it into shape. The secret, or the biggest benefit, if you like, is of having your business exit ready is there's two main ones I can think of, two or three. When your business is exit ready, it's actually more profitable. But let's not talk about that too much. It's more profitable and it's a whole lot easier to run. The other thing is, when your business is exit ready, is that you can react, you can respond proactively when someone comes out of the blue and taps you on the shoulder and says, I'm actually interested in buying your business. And then you know if they're making a good deal or not, if they're taking advantage, because someone who's going to come and offer to buy your business, chances are they've bought them in the past. They've already learned from mistakes or, historically, and they know what they're doing now. If this is your first time, you need to be, you only get one crack at this. Let's make sure we maximize the opportunity, and so we can exit like a boss.
Yeah. We will get in a few more times, I'm sure.
You got me on a challenge now.
I know. You know what we need? We need a little exit like a boss number for Russ to put that on at the end, Darryl, so we know how many times we actually said it. But I don't want to give him any more work. So I suppose the big thing there, and there's a couple of really interesting things, is that time scale. Is there an argument to say, so like, let's take me as an example, because that's the most pertinent and practical. I don't think I'm going to exit because I'm loving what I'm doing. I don't think I'm going to exit for 10 years. But actually, as a thought experiment, thinking about exit now and putting the framework in place, like if I ever want to, like I'm going to exit, it's not a bad thought experiment to go through, right? Like pretend like you're exiting in 10 years anyway, because then you'll have take the right actions to get your business into a shape where, number one, you can choose to exit, but as you say, number two, you might choose not to because it's running independently without you. What are your thoughts around that? Let's start with the end in mind behavior for all business owners regardless. What do you think?
There's a couple of things there, Chris. The first one is we've already sort of touched on, and that's if someone comes and taps you on the shoulder and says, hey, I want to buy your business, you can have a serious conversation. If you're not ready, even if they offer you something attractive, chances are they'll walk away if it takes too long, because nothing kills a deal like loss of momentum.
Yeah.
The other thing is you've said, hey, I don't plan to exit for 10 years. Now, I don't want to, put the jinx on you, but what happens if you get hit by a bus?
Yeah, no, sure.
So you need to make sure that should the worst happen, everyone knows what's going to happen, and all those things play out as your family are looked after, the business is looked after, and they may not be compatible because in your will by default, if you haven't done any other exit plans, your business goes to your family. But do they want to run the business, or would they be better off with some sort of other strategy? So you need to have that in place. And then, as you already mentioned, is if your business is exit ready, that frees you up and you can be more opportunistic to identify other, as I say, opportunities or strategies in the marketplace, whether it be for you to do something like this, or you might figure out how to go, actually, well, maybe I can buy an accounting practice, or maybe I should get into this. And that's a beautiful, next door product for my existing business. How do I make that happen? I've got the time to explore and have the conversations, and my head is open to those ideas and opportunities. Whereas if I'm tied up running my business and
doing the work
at all,
it's difficult to do, isn't it?
I just don't have time to entertain that, and I'm typically under a whole lot more stress. So I'm not doing any creative thinking when I'm stressed.
Yeah. I completely agree with you in there, and I think you make a really fair point of business, and we find it's quite a lot, Darryl. Business owners don't think about that. If tomorrow you weren't around to run that business anymore, what would the impact be, and what financial implications has that got? Particularly if the business isn't in a point where it can run independently without them. So there's that sort of medium term, get a team in place so that it's less reliant on you, but also short term, what happens with the shares, as you say. We've got a client who's a decent sized recruitment business where the shares went to the wives of the two partners, but the business didn't have the capital to buy the shares back, and the wives didn't have any interest in getting involved in the business. So actually, we put in place an arrangement to make sure that the wives got the value of the shares, but without responsibility for the business. And that's
beautiful.
sort of options you want to consider when you're thinking about that.
Yep.
When we think about options, though, and I know you speak a bit about this, and by the way, I love your the content you've produced. I haven't got through any of it yet, but certainly if you're listening to this, check out Darryl's podcast. It's on his website, Succession Plus. We'll put links in all the notes to all the LinkedIn stuff, because there's I can see already there's some amazing content on there. But one of the things that you talk about on the website, Darryl, is the options business owners have got. So sell to a consolidator or a large competitor, think about management buyout. I know that we're having a lot of conversations at the moment with business owners around employee ownership trusts. Help me understand a little bit about some of the options available for business owners if they're thinking of selling, and what are the pros and cons they should be thinking about when they're thinking about those options.
Well, look, I think it comes down to energy first. So we know that when it comes to running a business, it takes a whole lot of energy. And as you mentioned, the 30-year-old earlier, they've got energy. They're going to change the world. Their energy typically fades somewhat by the time they get to a certain age. But I reckon there's a couple of, let's just talk about the two positive actions or areas for options of exit first. And that's based around energy. So the first energy, if you like, is when the business owner or owners have reached the point where they've been running their business for a number of years and they go, look, I've just taken the business as far as I want to take it. I'm satisfied. I'm content with what I've built. We've got the business in good hands. I've made a lot of money and I've extracted good money out of it. I'm good. And now I want to hand it over to the next whoever's the next guardians, custodians of the business. So there's kind of I'm ready to just gradually step down. I'm done, but I'll step down and I'll hand it over. I don't want to give up altogether because I want to make sure the business has a good future and the legacy lives on, for example. I want to gradually step down and hand over and do a good job. So that's one energy. Another energy is, hey, you know what? We've taken this business so far and we've had some good results so far. But, we're not done yet. I reckon let's have one last surge, one last push. We go all in, we get some funding, we can do this, and this, and we can crank this baby up and then we can go out with a bang. And there's different energy there. And that's what I call the step up energy. So that's all in and we want to step out in style. So neither's right or wrong, but what we need to do is capture what is the energy and what's the passion, the desire of the owners that we're working with. Then we can go, okay, so let's figure out how much they want to step up. What's the risk profile they're going to work to when they step up? Are they going all in? Is it all on black? Is it double or nothing? What is it? Or is it, well, when we say step up, we don't want to like.
Yeah, but as you say, there is it's really interesting because I've had this conversation before around the word entrepreneur and the word business owner. Because I'm a business owner, I build my business incrementally, but I know a lot of people who are entrepreneurs who go, right, we're giving it a go, we're doing it big, and I think the attitude is different, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, and it's one of my favorite conversations, Chris, because the entrepreneurs, they're not doing it for the money. They're doing it because they've seen a challenge. They see something that needs to change. They got to fix something. They can see an opportunity if something needs to be built because it hasn't been done before. They're breaking all the rules. And when people are saying it can't be done, they're going, well, get out of my way because you're slowing me down. So, and then the business owners are going, well, I can make a lot of money here. It's a good business. It's a good lifestyle. I'm happy with that. I can build wealth and I can look after a whole lot of clients and I can do a good job. And again, neither's right or wrong, but it's all about understanding who you're working with so you can put the strategy in place. Because if you misunderstand what they're looking to achieve, you won't achieve the right outcome. So that's why the very first thing we do with the clients, we talked about the stages, or we touched on the stages, but we've actually got a process. We've got a proprietary process that we follow that's composed of 21 steps. And the very first step is let's understand the goals and aspirations and the outcomes that the business owners are looking for. Do they want to get out in 2 years? Do they want to maximize the value? Do they want to be known forever and leave a legacy? What is it they're trying to achieve, whether it be in their country, their state, their county, their neighborhood, their city, whatever it is? What are they trying to achieve, and what's important to them and what's not important to them? And then we can combine all of the variables together to get them the outcome in the time frame they want and the risk that they want. And when we get it right, we'll know that the outcome is that what's next, they'll be financially secure and looked after as well.
Yeah, 100%. So one of the things that I was really fascinated about, and I've mentioned this in the interview already, is your podcast. Because I think as people who, we find ourselves really lucky at Savello, Darryl, because we understand how difficult it is for people to come to us and go, you know what, I need help with this sort of stuff. It's not an easy conversation, particularly for business owners who are used to having that control, to sit in front of somebody like you and I and go, can you help? So we understand that. And part of the reason we're doing this is to add more value to our clients and prospective clients. But also part of the reason we're doing it is to learn and understand more about the factors that we need to consider. And I know you've done that because you've got 100 episodes of your podcast where you've spoken to people who can add value to you and your clients' lives. Tell me what you've learned through interviewing all those people.
Yeah,
and what guests and what have provided you and potentially your clients with the most insight.
Okay. So
clearly they've all been good, right?
It's not all good, that's for sure. But if I'll try and summarize, because as you say, I've spoken now the sort of people I've spoken to M&A or brokers or bankers, private bankers, whatever you want to call them in the country, but people who help you sell your business. I've spoken to them. I've spoken to accountants who go, what I've learned from accountants is they go, look, clients need to come to us and tell us that they want to change the brief from being tax effective and tax efficient to they're now selling their business, and they've got that in the pipeline, because we'll probably need to do some restructuring and help them with their financial planning and modeling and get them, so they get a tax efficient. What I've learned from financial planners and wealth managers is that, we need to get them involved early, because it's important. The client's going, my business is my pension. And they often go to their wealth manager and they go, right, I'm going to sell my business for 3 million in 2 years' time. And what they need to do with their financial planner or wealth manager is to go and look, here's the valuation. Here's the verification, if you like, that my business will be worth 3 million in 3 years' time based on these plans. I'm not just plucking that number out of the sky. So that way, the financial plan that is built on solid information.
Yeah.
I've learned from lawyers that you need to get you need to get an experienced lawyer in your industry, and you need to get them involved, and don't skip on lawyers, because that can bite you in the backside real quick. You need to get some exit planning. And what I've learned from all the exit planners is, including ourselves, obviously, is the sooner you start, you're better, to put you on the front foot so that you can take advantage of opportunities. Because a lot of business owners go, you say to them, do you want to leave your business? And they'll go, hey, my business is always for sale for the right number. And I go, great. What's the right number? And they go, they're just hoping someone will come and throw a big number at them, but they don't know what that big number is. And if that big number does come, what are they doing to make sure that their business is close to being worth that big number? And so that if someone comes out of the blue and throws that number at them, that they can respond and not slow the deal down, because they'll want to move fast.
But I suppose the interesting thing there is how many of those business owners know what their financial independence number is, so they know how much they could sell their business for and still live the life they want.
Well,
I don't know the answer.
They don't, because how many of them actually get financial planning advice? But I think there's two numbers, Chris. One is, what's my number to be financially or independently wealthy, where I don't need to work?
Yeah.
There's another number, which is, what do I want to sell my business for?
It's pride, isn't it? That one.
Yeah.
It's like, well, what's it worth? What's that?
Yeah.
40 years old, 30 years old. Yeah.
Exactly. And they're two different numbers. And then what is my business realistically worth is the next number. And that's why we need to, start that planning and go, well, let's get all of our numbers lined up, because the first one they want to know is what I have seen. Here's one of the things I've learned, going back to the question, is once they actually do their personal financial planning and they realize they're already financially independent, that removes a whole layer of stress off the body.
True.
And they actually become better leaders in their business. So the business can flourish because they're no longer counting on their business. The business is now cream because they're already financially independent if they choose to exit. So they can become better leaders.
What's interesting about that is, and we talk about this in What Happens Next framework, we've got clients who continue to work and will never run out of money again.
Yeah.
So, and the reason they continue to work is because it gives them purpose. They really enjoy what they do. They're not doing it for the money. They're charging what they think is or their business is generating money because we live in a sort of market economy and that's what businesses do. But actually, they don't actually need the money. They go to work because they enjoy it and they feel that it's something that gets them out of bed in the morning. It's their ikigai, it's their purpose in life. And actually, I agree with you. I think you're more likely to be authentic if you take the money off the table than you are when you're thinking that might be an issue. I suppose the challenge, and this is probably more indicative of the stage of life that people are when they come to it, Darryl, is a lot of people just don't know. And then if we can give them clarity, even if they're not there yet, then they've got a framework to work on. And it's the same as what you do. It's the element of, don't guess, get clarity from experts who can help you with this stuff so that you can live the life that's more authentically yours and live life like a boss. I'll pinch that just for that.
Yeah. And it's an interesting point because some people will, and I think one of the entrepreneurial myths is that they want to be financially independent, and so they can go and sit on a beach and drink pina coladas. And it's just a myth, because those sort of people, after 5 minutes on the beach, they're going to go, right, what's next? I can commercialize this beach. Well, that guy can be selling me pina coladas at double the price. Or he or she is thinking up new business ideas and opportunities all the time. So we've got to figure out what's next, to keep them engaged and what gives them purpose, as you say. Now, some people will go out, now, depending on what business they had, because some people are sort of self-employed with a few helpers, and they are the main person in the business, and they'll keep working and charging and doing what they want. Some people will leave a business and they'll actually sell a business as a going concern, and they might set up on their own and do something just on a self-employed basis. Some of them want to go, hey, look, I've done really well here. I've grown my business. I've scaled it. I've exited. I've now got a bank account full of cash. I want to become an angel investor and go and invest in some other businesses and help out and show them what I've learned. Now, we need to be real careful about that one, but there are ways to make that viable for them so they get the fulfillment they're looking for, but they need some additional skills.
I mean, we've seen another couple of options to that. I mean, a lot of our clients have non-executive directorship arrangements where they get to use their skills and expertise in a way that there's still stuff at stake and they're still adding value to the world, but in a way that can be better managed time-wise. And then, depending on what your purpose is and sort of what your values are, we see a lot of our clients go into the charitable sector and add their expertise and skills to do good in the world. So, like there's so much that somebody can do from that framework.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree with you. That myth of how long could you? I mean, I personally get itchy after about 3 days of sitting on the beach, and I don't imagine that changing anytime soon. So I think business owners' mindset and entrepreneurs' mindset is, what's next, and it's the reason we've not called this 10 steps to a successful retirement, because actually, for a lot of our clients, a lot of people like probably you and I, retirement feels like it's something you're never going to do.
Yeah. Well, my wife said I can't retire because she frankly doesn't want me around the house and getting in her way when she retires. So I got to figure out what it is for me. But yeah, look, I get it. And now some people, they want to be chairman of the golf club, commodore of the yacht club. My dad is still active. He's I don't know, 86, 88, something now. He's still active in the equivalent to the British Legion over in Oz. So yeah, he's there. Must be half a day.
That's the philanthropic charitable side, isn't it? Of
Yeah,
like helping an organisation that does.
He was a military man. He must be, he works about half a day, 3 or 4 days a week. Yeah, he loves it, and he's still sharp as a tack.
Yeah, and this is why this what happens next conversation is important, because my experience is that people don't think about that next stage early enough, so that they're hitting a wall, stopping work, doing what they're doing, and then suddenly they go through a period where it could be less painful if they prepared more. If somebody's listened to this, Darryl, and thought about, right, you know what, I really need to start thinking about this business, I'm 3 to 5 years towards whatever's next in my life. Talk to me about the tips. So give me 3 top tips you'd recommend somebody consider when they're thinking about exiting their business.
Am I allowed to say they should come and have a conversation with us?
Of course you are. Get help is absolutely fine.
Yeah. Of all of the guests I've had on the podcast, the common theme is the sooner you start preparing for exit, the better off you'll be, and the greater maximize, or the more you can increase the valuation of your business. I've also had a number of owners go, hey, look, I first approached you because I wanted to get out of the business. I'd had enough. I was stressed to the eyeballs. The business had taken over my life. I just couldn't see a future. I didn't know where to take it next. I'm now back in control of the business, and I'm working a healthy 30, 40 hours a week. I love it. Do you mind if we don't sell it? And I go, look, no worries. I'm not taking a clip on your exit. So we need to get an early start is one tip. The sooner you start, the better. You said begin with the end in mind. You need to get clear what it is you want to do next. We need to know what your goals and aspirations are, and what floats your boat. Because one of the things we know about entrepreneurs is once they grasp onto a new vision of what they're going to do next, get out of their way, because they're going to make it happen. So if they know what they're going to do next after the business, then once they're clear on that and they've grabbed hold of that new vision, they're running for it, and then they're not going to stall the exit. Another thing would be, look, the reality is the bigger your business is, the more valuable it is and the more enjoyable it is to run. I get a lot of messages from business owners who go, look, I just can't find good people. We can't get good people in the marketplace. And it always comes down to the leaders. The good people are looking for good leaders. So invest in yourself, in your leadership styles, in the skills you've got to transition yourself out of being in the business to on the business. And after a number of years, being the best technical person in your business, it is actually new skills to be working on the business and making the mindset shift. So here's the big tip. You need to change your mindset from growing your revenue or growing your profit to thinking about the valuation of your business and looking at the valuation every year and going, how do I increase the valuation year on year? So there's probably the biggest tip I can give you, that mindset shift from profit growth to valuation growth.
And what factors, I mean, I completely get that. What factors do you see when people are looking at sort of growing their business, where they what do they need to shift to think more, to have more of a valuation focus towards more of a towards less of a profit focus. So I'll give you my example. Well, the one thing we've done when we've thought about sort of a more valuation focus, and North's financial star at Savello is now recurring income. It's the only number we're actually too worried about, and that's driven a lot of things in our business. It's driven an increased level of security because we know that we've got existing clients. That's meant, though, having a short-term hit on initial revenue sometimes because we just don't take transactional clients on. It just means that recurring income's increasing. So I see how that increase in valuation and change in shape of the business might work in a world like ours, but more generally, how does it work in the sort of in businesses, and what shifts would you help people consider when they're thinking about moving from that profit revenue model towards a bit more of a valuation model?
So you couldn't have set that question up better if you tried. So the reason I say that is that there are 7 levers, we call them, for addressing the risk to the valuation of the business. And they go in increasing order of impact they have. The first one is get your revenue sorted. Whether it be long-term contracts, whether it be recurring revenue, just the format of your revenue, the more predictable, the more smooth you can make that, the better. Once you got your revenue sorted, then you want to start looking at the people. How skilled, how consistent are the people in my business? How diligent are they at following process? How good are how much are the client relationships spread across multiple people? And what's the loyalty and the ongoing training and development of my people? And how are they aligned in their understanding of how their role contributes to the overall business vision and performance? Once I've got my people sorted, then I start to look at systems and processes. Are everyone doing things the same way, predictably? Have we got a process for updating the processes? I think you asked on the creativity piece before. Once I've got my processes and systems, organized, I then start looking for product. What product can I introduce, or intellectual property or methodology, if I'm a service-based business, can I create and brand and name and become known for, so that clients start coming to the business looking to buy that methodology rather than coming to buy Darryl or Chris or the individual. So now I've got separation from my revenue from the person. Once I got my product sorted, I then start looking at my routes to market, my channels, my distribution channels. How am I bringing the revenue in? Have I got more than one route to market? I've got my website. Where do my clients come from? A lot of small business owners go, hey, look, I just get all my business from referrals. Referrals is, you don't have a lot of control over it, and the taps can come on and off. So you want more channels than that. Once you've got your distribution channels, then you want to start looking at brand. Do I have a reputation in the market? What's my position in the market? What am I known? What's my business known for? And am I known for what I want to be known for? What's my reputation? Do they match with our strategy? And then I can go, look, now, and Gerber called this the franchise prototype. Have I now got a business in a box that I can replicate in multiple locations? Is it scalable? And they're the 7 levers that I can just, work through at my own pace and at my own desire and risk profile to continually address the valuation build of my business. And they do work, they compound.
And I'd imagine that's in a position of flux as well, right? Because you as your business evolves, you need to continue to revisit those elements.
Yeah, look, that's a really good point. You may have one product and then you go, well, do I have a product ecosystem? Do I have a product suite? I have, what are the products that people come to me for? My position was X and I've grown tenfold and that's no longer relevant. Do I need to update my position in my marketplace? So think as you grow, you will and evolve, you need to update all strategies.
Fabulous. Just so people who have watched this interview and really enjoyed it can find you, whereabouts on the on the web can they find you? I will say it one more time, Darryl, I might as well. If they want to sell their business like a boss.
So,
go on.
Fortunately, I've got a unique name. So you can see my name on the screen. If you search that, you're going to find me. I'm the only one in the world. The website is succession.plus. If you just type in succession.plus, you'll find me there, or you'll find my name on LinkedIn. And you mentioned the podcast. If you want to find the podcast, just search any podcast platform for Exit Insights, because we're sharing insights about what you need to do to prepare for exit, and what people who have already exited their business, what they wish they knew before they started.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you, Darryl, and thank you so much for your time during our interview today. I've loved it.
Hey, thanks, Chris. I appreciate you taking the time and asking me some questions I really had to think about.
It's always a pleasure.